One. I think we're live.
Yeah,
I think we're live.
What do you think of
What's
this?
up, Bri?
Halloween is in full effect here at the Vaghi household in Colorado.
The Vaghi household has a full-size skeleton that is fully corona masked. For those of you who are listening, he has a full skeleton with a mask on that is waving at you.
Yeah.
Dude, that is beautiful.
So
that is beautiful.
We've kind of always had Mr. Bones here, but then I went upstairs to get a glass of water, and I noticed the girls have masked up Mr. Bones for the pandemic.
Is that the best name for a skeleton, by the way?
I think it's the only name, really. I don't know if anybody has a skeleton named Steve.
I'm going to throw you a loop right here. What's the name of the Walt Disney's Silly Symphonies that has the skeletons all dancing?
Oh, that was well, it was to the tune Dance Macabre.
Yes,
but it was called.
Yeah. By the way, I have no idea. I just remember seeing it from traditions when the skeletons would go dancing across and everything. We'll find the answer for all of our loyal listeners for you.
It was called Skeleton Dance, wasn't it?
Oh, no! Give yourself a bell. Skeleton Dance is correct. What a horrible name for a cartoon.
Well, what are we going to name this cartoon about? Skeletons dancing.
Dude, the creative team, I guess Imagineering was not built yet at that time. So that's just a couple of dudes sitting around. For those of you who are just joining us, if you're listening on the replay, you're watching on the replay, it's Pete and Brian getting ready to kick off another fun hour. The best hour of your week.
The best hour of my week, Pete.
It's the best hour of my week, Pete. Here you go. I'm going to get the whole theme song going and we'll get started. Here we go. Hey,
everybody.
Let me give our listeners and watchers, if you will, Brian, a little behind the scenes. If you and I lived in the same town, we'd be best friends. Would you agree with that statement?
Are you saying we're not best friends?
I'm just saying that.
Yes, I agree.
We get on this podcast, this live stream about 15 minutes ahead of time. And then stuff happens and we're testing this and we're testing that and we're checking stuff. And I just had to sing happy birthday to my niece. And all of a sudden I wanted to have a huge debrief with Brian about how his week was. And he goes, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
until we went live. So the only time we actually get to talk with each other is during this show because we're so busy. So if it seems a little personal, it's like you're coming into a sweet little, just a couple dudes sitting around talking about stuff that has to do with leadership that would help us all get a little better. So if this is your first time joining us, it's episode 24. My name is Pete and I'm coming from Birmingham, Alabama.
And I'm Pete's best friend, Brian, who's coming to you from Denver, Colorado, where it's been nice and fall-like weather, and we're finally not choking from the smoke.
Okay, I'm throwing you on the spot here. This is not even scripted. Rank, because me and Sherry did this the other night. Rank the seasons for me in order of favorites. Spring, summer, winter, fall. Go ahead and rank them as in order of your favorite seasons.
Number one, without a doubt, it's not even close. It's fall.
Okay.
I'm an autumn guy. I love the fall. Number two will be for me. I'm gonna.
It's tough. I know.
Based on the climate of where I live, I'm gonna say summer. Okay. It's a tight tie between spring and summer because for us, spring is beautiful here in Denver, but we get these freak snows. So you'll have like a beautiful 70-degree, no humidity day, and then the next day it dumps, like 3 feet of snow on you. The lovely Terry Vaghi, my lovely and talented bride, she says fall, spring, summer, winter. And I think that's my answer, except I'll switch summer just ahead of spring.
This is why your smoking hot wife and I should have gotten married. That's the exact same order that I have. I love fall, and then I love spring. Summer I enjoy, but winter is always dead last.
Now,
it's cold. I don't like it.
Surely your lovely smoking hot wife, Sherry, said she bumped winter up a little higher, right? Because she loves Christmas. I know.
She loves winter. She loves it. May be her favorite season because of the decorations and the way it makes you feel and kind of all that kind of stuff. Terry says I can give myself a bell because I got the answer. I got the answer right. So, so if it's your first time joining us, we just like to take an hour and have fun. There's a lot of news going on these days, both political and social. And pull up your Google, pull up your CNN, your Fox, your MSNBC. You can watch all that kind of stuff you want whenever you want. However,
watch that on your own time.
Not right now. Let's have an hour to just have a little bit of fun, talk about leadership. Real quick news for you. You'll see I'm wearing the Buc-ee's shirt. The second ever Buc-ee's in the state of Alabama is going to open in Leeds, just near me in 2021. So do you have a Buc-ee's out there in Colorado?
I haven't seen a Buc-ee's since we lived in Gainesville, I don't think.
Okay. Do you have a very large gas station that has over 100 pumps that serves beef jerky by the pound?
I stopped at one in Nebraska. We went out there this summer for a little trip and stopped at a giant, it wasn't a Buc-ee's, but it was similar.
Sure.
Where, I mean, on the inside, you could not only buy like a Toblerone, but also like, T-shirts and hats. They had clothing inside. And they even had a liquor store with like top quality bourbon.
I mean, you just stopped to get some gas and a soda, and like an hour later, you're like, I got to get out of here.
I have to be with like a tube of Pringles that have the like the weird flavor Pringles, like roast chicken Pringles and whatnot. Gotta love a Buc-ee's.
I believe the Florida equivalent, correct me if I'm wrong, is called a Busy Bee. Is that correct? Have you been to a Busy Bee out in Florida? If you're watching or you have a large gas station that you are a fan of, feel free to type it in the chat. Me and Brian like to be interactive. Excuse me, Brian and I like to be interactive. So put something in the Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, put it in the chat. If you're watching on LinkedIn, put it in the chat. And let's go ahead and get started. Brian always gets us started with feel-good stories. Feel good, and we call it leading off with Brian. And there's nothing more than just this. It's just a big sign with some spotlights that says leading off with Brian. So if you're expecting a lot of fancy animation, something witty, something flying, you're not going to get it. This is simple. This is elegant. This is positive. It's leading off the good news with Brian. You don't need anything fancy, buddy, do you?
What's that?
You don't need anything fancy.
No, I love the searchlights.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right, man. Bring us up today because, again, help us get into a good mood today. What do you got for us as far as stories go?
All right, Pete, the Senate leadership and President Trump announced today. I'm just kidding. We're not
I was about to say we didn't vet this through our producing team. Hey, real quick. Real quick. Here's one of the rabbit holes we always go down. All right, so yesterday was the opening day of Ellen, and I feel this show has just as many viewers as Ellen. Oh, so yeah. Sherry and I were working from home. We were watching Ellen because she wanted to see the opening monologue because of all the drama. And she mentioned how many people work on her show. She said, I've got to take care of blank number of people who work on this show. How many people do you think are employed by the Ellen show? How many people does it take to run a 1 hour weekly television?
It's just a television show, right? Not all of the other.
Not all it is.
Not the apps and the.
No. But you've got to have producers. You got to have people who are writing her stuff. You've got to have all the electricians. You got to have the finance people. You got to have Booker. I mean, you got to have a lot of stuff.
Give me an over under. Let me play.
Is it over or under 130 people?
It's over 130 people. I was going to say
it is
212 people.
No, it was like 197 or something. And I was like, who needs 197 people to do a show? We have 2. And look at our show. Yeah, 2.
I came pretty close at 212 if it's 197.
Dude, you absolutely nailed it. Joseph said 150. Yeah. So anyhow, just a lot of people to put on a show. You're getting this high quality entertainment a la dose. So, all right. So go ahead, buddy. Get us started.
Well, if you guys saw the beginning of today's show, we talked about Halloween a little bit, and you saw that we're already fully decorated here at the Vaghi household with our fall decorations are out. It's Halloween. I know it's actually we've been decorated for this for the last couple of weeks, but we've been talking about it this year, and I don't know if everybody else has, about how is Halloween going to work with our current pandemic situation. Luckily for our family, we're mainly out of the going out trick-or-treating years. But we still like to give out candy, and we live in a kind of a newer neighborhood, and it skews really just a lot of little bitty kids. And I was looking forward to knocks on the door and get a trick or treat, and here's a bee, and here's an elephant, and here's a little vampire. We still like to give out the candy. Well, one Ohio man has had an idea. Maybe you guys saw this on social media this week. Had an idea on how to keep the coronavirus from knocking on his door this Halloween. So Andrew Beatty set out to create a touch-free trick-or-treat experience to deliver candy safely. And you can see it here on your screen. What we're looking at is he attached a big PVC tube to his rail that goes down his steps here. He and his 6-year-old daughter put together this really cute orange and black wrapped tube in about 20 minutes using materials that they already had around the house. And he says he hopes that, keeping the holiday tradition alive will create a sense of normalcy for the children who are also going through this pandemic.
Look at that.
The little ghost at the end says, "Place bucket here." And
place your bucket here. And so what they're going to do is they're going to literally just show up. But do they ring a doorbell? Do they knock? Do they announce their presence, buddy? How's this going to work?
No, he's going to put it on the porch railing, and then he'll stay on the porch with, his family, and send those morsels down into the waiting baskets.
Okay.
Of all the neighborhood trick-or-treaters.
This is again from a leadership point of view, this is genius, because again, how can I still have this going on in my community? And I don't know what's happening out west. I'm not sure what's happening in California. I've heard nothing. Trust me, living here in the South, there's people still walking around without masks. So we live a different lifestyle around here. But I think out west, where there's rules and kind of things like that, there's rules that people follow and stuff. I sort of think that, some people have said that some cities are going to say you are not allowed to trick or treat. But I see this as a beautiful alternative. I see this as trick or treating is still allowed, and you can have this great thing. From a leadership perspective, Pete, I was watching a quick 2-minute video blog that I subscribe to called Pete's Points. It's a good one. You should all subscribe to that. Yeah.
It was talking about how, businesses and leaders need to be able to adapt and cover, we got to stay water through this thing. We got to,
you got to change on the fly, buddy. You got to be able to move. You got to adapt. You got to change. Things are happening all the time. Now, my buddy Wade, who's watching, looks like he's on Facebook. He says he's going camping. There's over 300 sites and thousands of people. It's going to be great. So again, it's funny how if you want to still do trick-or-treating, you probably need to promote it. You probably need to say, we're still having this. This is still happening. Or you need to say, and here's a question for you, Brian. If I'm wearing a mask like a Chewbacca Wookiee mask, does that count as a mask? Or does that count?
Yeah, I don't know. As long as it's not vented through here, like just letting your corona germs trick or treat at my house.
How many kids are going as surgeons this year? They're not going to dress up at all. They're just going to put the mask on and go, "I'm a surgeon. Give me candy."
I get the feeling a lot of people who are complaining about wearing masks and say they can't do it. I can't wear this mask. Are not going to have a problem wearing their Halloween mask.
Right. Exactly. Good one, buddy. I love that one. All right, keep us going. Story number 2. What do you got for me?
So it's interesting. Young, Black, and Lit.
Woo!
We know we've worked in leadership positions and at Walt Disney World, and we've looked at diversity, and we know that it's important for children of all races and cultures and different abilities to be able to see themselves reflected in society and in the literature that they love to read. And unfortunately, sometimes books can be hard to come by with characters of diverse backgrounds. So Crenice Roseman and her husband Derek Ramsey started a program in the Chicago area called Young, Black, and Lit.
I love it.
Entendre there. It's both lit and it's literature.
And it's literature.
It's a program that provides free books that feature Black main characters to children and schools in that Chicagoland area. So, thanks to their organization and donors that they've gotten together and the educators that they've partnered with, young African-American children can read more about superheroes and scientists and fictional heroes that are just like them. And low-income schools get access to these wonderful materials. Oh, isn't she cute? This is a picture of a little
so cute.
A little girl holding up her book called Girl of Mine. They said when a child sees themselves reflected in the books that they read, when a book is a mirror to them, then they feel valued. So
absolutely,
I thought this was I'm a big bleeding heart liberal for funding. I come from a family of teachers, and I just thought this was a really good reminder that now is the perfect time to do something like Young, Black, and Lit, or even just to donate money or books or your time to literacy programs like this, or to schools in your area. Because honestly, this is shaping up to be a difficult school year all over the country, and teachers and students deserve some of our extra support.
Well, there's a great program here in Birmingham, Alabama that my wife was a part of for years, which is called Better Basics. And Better Basics would go out into schools, mostly schools that were on free and reduced lunches, and you read to the kids, and if they read, they get free books and all of this. The need for free books and to give kids, she would come home crying some days saying like, this was unbelievable that I read and I handed a book to somebody and the student said, I get to take this home. Like, this is mine. She's like, yeah, this is yours. So what you're doing is step one. Step one is getting reading materials in their hands. This here is a step 2, which is not just, is it a book? It's a book that aligns with you and helps you feel valued, whether it's based on race or gender or sports or whatever you need. It sort of aligns with you. That's a huge win, man. That's a great story. I love it.
I just think, growing up and how, I loved to read. I was a big reader, avid reader. And, in the movies that I like to watch and the books I like to read, I always put myself in the, protagonist's situation or whatever. And it was almost always, a white kid like me. And I never had this challenge that so many of our diverse children probably face, where there's just not that much out there.
Yep. Great story. I absolutely love it, buddy. Way to go. Let's keep going. You got one more for me, right? Oh, you do have one more. Oh, man, you do have one more. One more happy story. One more awesome story with my buddy Brian. All right.
Hey, look who that is.
What? Just spending some time with Humphrey the Bear. What?
Humphrey the Bear.
Don't you worry about it. Humphrey the Bear is one of the most other than Anthony Giffen, nobody in the world would know how to shout out Anthony Giffen would know what that is. Or maybe this, buddy. Look at this little thing I got. It's a little Disney trend. I don't know. I just like toys. That's all I'm saying to you.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Pete. Did you know that there is a national Toy Hall of Fame.
Let's go! I did not know until about 3 o'clock today when you mailed me the information.
Well, let's talk about it. So the National Toy Hall of Fame is up there in Rochester, New York. Shout out to upstate there. I think Rochester is in upstate. I don't know. I've never been.
I don't know.
Anyway,
there's New York City and there's everything else.
Yeah, exactly. They just announced their 12 finalists for the Hall of Fame class of 2020, the National Toy Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And, yep, we're taking a look at the nominees right here. They'll send you right back through a time warp. If you take a look at these, what we're looking at here, there's Baby Nancy, there's Bingo, something called Briar Horses, which I'm not familiar with.
Say that again?
Briar Horses, like Briar's.
Is that the one on the far right that looks like a horse, or the one on the left that looks like My Little Pony?
My Little Pony's also nominated, yes. So the Briar Horses or Brayer Horses, I'm assuming that was probably a girl toy that I didn't want to play with. But
okay, let's be clear for 1 second. Everybody knew My Little Pony. Okay, yeah. It just rolls off the tongue. You knew it. This horse you're talking about, it sounds like an ice cream.
I don't know.
How in the world? Where is it?
Chat in if you've heard of Briar Horses.
Yeah, no one knows what a Briar. If you played with a Briar horse, let us know. What else you got on there? These are officially going to be in the Toy Hall of Fame, or these are nominated for this year?
No, they're nominated. We got Jenga, Light Bright, of course. I'm shocked that Light Bright's not already in the Hall of Fame.
Light Bright, making pictures with light. Da, 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 da.
I remember all those commercials. I don't remember that one.
It's okay. Stop it. I sang it just like it is.
Light Bright. You got Masters of the Universe there. Got Risk. I loved Risk. Sidewalk Chalk. Look at that right there between Bingo and Risk.
Love that.
Chalk was nominated this year, as well as Tamagotchis and Yahtzee and a game called Sorry. So you asked.
Wow. All right.
All in. No. They're going to take, these are the nominees. They're going to select finalists, which will be selected based on 4 different criteria. There's icon stats, longevity, discovery, and innovation. And
wow.
So you'll know
this is all Brian, where is the Toy Hall of Fame? Did you say that?
Rochester. So, they'll have a few rounds of public and also expert voting, and only a few of these will ultimately make it into the Hall of Fame this November.
Wow.
So Hall of Fame is what we're looking at here, and so far 71 iconic toys have been already selected to the Hall of Fame, and those include things like Crayola crayons, alphabet blocks. Remember the alphabet block?
Or as I call them, Crayola crowns, which drives my wife up a wall. That's when I call them crowns.
Yeah, but they're
Crayola crowns.
Crowns.
Crowns. Yankee. Look at my buddy Jack Williams. We asked for somebody. This is the beautiful Ellen DeGeneres isn't going to get this, Brian. She's not going to get this witty banter between us. Jack says my wife collects Briar horses. They're known by horse people.
Okay.
So who knew?
Pick it in with things like Raggedy Ann and decks of playing cards and my personal favorite, Pete, Star Wars action figures.
Of course, which are worth a heck of a lot of money now. I love when we punt. Look what's about to happen here, buddy. We are going to attempt something and see if this works. We're going to punt to this. We're going to share the audio. I'm going to share, and I'm going to press play.
Hey.
The toy that lets you create beautiful pictures with light. Work with colorful pegs that glow with light. Light bulb not included. Make people, animals, things. And with refills, Bugs Bunny or Bozo the Clown. You can make lots of pretty pictures with Light Bright from Hasbro.
Okay. Wow. So are you telling me that me singing the Light Bright, making pictures with light, like you had no idea what I was talking?
No, I did not. Once you played that, I mean, it took me right back to to my.
But you know what's beautiful? It's beautiful the marketing people who are like, hang on, this is Light Bright. What are you doing? Well, we're making pictures with light. All right, dude, that's a song.
Yeah.
Just put.
Oh, I got a keyboard right here. Light Bright.
Yeah. We've gotten so much more sophisticated. Hey, 3 good stories today, buddy. Way to go.
Good stories. It's the good stuff.
Let's be clear that your smoking hot wife loved her Light Bright, but never made the clown. Never made the clown.
We don't like
and
skeletons, but not clowns.
Yeah. In my family, we still play the game Sorry. I have a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old. We play Sorry all the time. We love the game of Sorry. And so Madison, she always wins, and I don't know how that happens. All right, buddy, thanks for leading off. We're up to our next section, brand new segment today. It's called Leadership from the Top, Brian. And you might think, oh, it's leadership from the top, like from the top, like we're going to talk about executive leadership. No, we're not. What we're talking about is a top list, a top 5, a top 10. And we actually made an opening with a song and with a graphic. Hang on, let me pull it up. Where is it? It's got to be here. We go.
Do you want your leadership lessons in bite-sized chunks? Then you're in luck. It's time for Leadership Starts at the Top.
Well, that was a sexy voice. I like it.
Do you like your leadership lessons in bite-sized chunks? Let's listen again, just because again we paid for it.
Do you want your leadership lessons in bite-sized chunks? Then you're in luck. It's time for Leadership Starts at the Top.
Whoever reported that, I expect them to be sort of like a Bond villain girl who's saying,
"Oh yeah,
okay, Mr. Bond, you will now have your leadership lessons."
Your leadership comes from the top. All right, so let's get started, buddy. Let's talk about today. I've chosen a top 10 list. Let me pull this bad boy up and share. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, we're going over the Bad Boss Index. The Bad Boss Index. So what we're doing is, this is an organization called BambooHR. You can find more about them at BambooHR.com. And they recently interviewed 1,000 people and said, hey, what do most bad bosses have in common? Now, we got to go pretty fast because they have a top 10 list. If they had a top 3 or a top 5, we could debunk and go into them. But we got a top 10 list. So, Brian, are you ready to hear what the top 10 bad boss behaviors are for the year 2020?
Yes, and I'll be checking them off and seeing how many of them I do. Here we go.
Yeah. And if you would like to comment as you're watching on Facebook Live or LinkedIn Live, if you want to say, hey, my boss does that, that'd be awesome. They're probably not watching anyways. So feel free to share some of these traits. All right, let's start with the first 4. And we'll do all 4 at one time only because it'll be better for discussion. This is what they found out. And again, none of this is going to knock your socks off. It's stuff that all of us as leaders should know, but this helps to reinforce it, buddy. Number 1, it says a bad boss, number 1, takes credit for your work.
That's my number 1 answer as well.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do we hear about leaders? And this, I mean, they ask their team, do all this work, do all this extra work, stay late, work hard, do all this stuff. And then they get into some big staff meeting and the CEO or the head of the department goes, I want to thank Pete for all that he did to help make this a success. All I have to do, buddy, all I got to do is say it was a team effort. Actually, most of the work was done by Brian and by Corey and by, Lisa. But no, I don't say that kind of stuff. I just take the credit and it kills my reputation. You have an example of this? Has it ever happened to you, or you just know that it's just frustrating?
Yeah, and I'm sure it has happened to everyone who's listening right now at one time or another, where you come up with a great idea, you sell it, you do all the heavy lifting, and then your boss ultimately takes that.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about losing respect. This is an easy one. Number 2, I'm surprised they put these 2 together, trust and empowerment. It's an interesting thing to think about. Can you empower somebody without trusting them? Can you trust them without empowering them? I don't know. We can have that debate for a later time, but they've lumped them together and said a boss just doesn't trust me and doesn't empower me. Let's talk real quick about Disney, buddy. And I've shared this. I'm doing a Alexa flash briefing on these as well over the next couple of weeks moving ahead. But I was talking about this today in my room by myself to my microphone and talking about this concept of empowerment. And Disney was great at empowering its employees from a from a guest service recovery standpoint.
Sure.
You were allowed, for the most part, to do whatever it took to make the guest happy. And a lot of times we talked about should versus could. Like, well, I guess you could do this, but you can't do that. Well, you could do this, but you can't do that. Disney really didn't live in that. They lived in the should. What you should do is this. You probably shouldn't offer that, but there was never a can and a can't. So, let's say you're working at a Disney resort front desk and someone comes up and lists these 5 things that have gone wrong with their vacation. And you are empowered to say, let me tell you what, I'm going to comp your entire stay, $2,000. We've dropped the ball, our fault. Can they do that? Yes. Now, if they do it wrong, will they get coached and developed and don't do that again and all this kind of stuff? Absolutely. But what may happen is their supervisor may come to them and go, well, I would have done the exact same thing. I mean, that's exactly what I would have done. So the empowerment allows for like teaching and growing and things like that. But if you don't empower your employees, buddy, to at least take some calculated risks, how are they going to get better?
Right.
How are they going to get better?
I mean, I wonder how many of our listeners have ever worked in retail or in a situation where they're customer service and someone's complaining and we say, I'm sorry that happened, but or if the customer is complaining about something that is the customer's own fault, or trying to return something that is clearly damaged, that kind of thing, and then the employee says, I'm sorry, but unfortunately we won't be able to take that back, and they say, I want to speak to your manager, and then the manager comes out and just goes, fine, here you go,
just give it
rolls right over on that service employee.
And I think one of those may be listed here as well. So, nice foreshadowing, my friend. Number 3, they found that a bad boss doesn't care if you're overworked. Listen, buddy, with COVID right now and with the pandemic and with, I know a department at a local zoo very close to me where they had a team in one department of 11. They're now down to 4 people. And they emailed me the other day and said, hey, we're having some real motivational cultural issues. We had 11, now we're down to 4, and we're expected to do the same amount of work. So that's happening in local government. It's happening in the private sector. Everything's being cut, but you're expected to deliver the same thing. So you're being probably overworked. The key word there, I think, Brian, is care. As long as the supervisor cares and empathizes and works with you, it's the supervisor or the boss in this study that goes, suck it up, Buttercup. Be glad you have a job. Suck it up. I'm working just as much as you are. So that's going to be a slight issue. Yeah. I got a couple comments here I want to throw up there, buddy. Terry says she had that happen to me early on in her career, a horrible, frustrating experience trying to find her place in the workforce and try to make a good impression. And she was robbed. Someone didn't trust or empower her. That was a big one.
Somebody took credit for her work is what that was.
Took credit for her work. That's a good one. Joseph said he was at Disney one day and that's what happened. He was having a bad day and the cast member gave him a 1-day pass to any park, good for 10 years. Now the lesson here, I don't want you all going to Disney complaining, saying, I demand free stuff. But again, that's kind of part of it. Let's go to number 4 real quick, Brian. Doesn't advocate for you when it comes to monetary compensation. Now, look at this. This is interesting. Small companies don't have as much money to give out. So a lot of people, it's not a big deal because, I'm sorry, it is a bigger deal in small companies because no one's advocating for them because there's not enough money to give out. Whereas in large organizations, they're like, there's enough room to grow and develop and things like that. So I actually don't need you to advocate for me. Let's look at the bottom 3, buddy. 5, 6, 7. 5, focus more on your weaknesses than your strengths. A bad boss does that. Number 6, a bad boss hires or promotes the wrong people. And number 7, a bad boss micromanages you. Which of those, Brian, is most frustrating to you as an employee? Which one is the most baddest of the badness?
Number 7 is the most baddest, and I would have put way higher in the list if we were ranking these. I don't know if you know this about me, Pete, but Brian don't like to be micromanaged. I don't need somebody standing over me saying, I have literally had a leader in my career who, I'm sitting here like typing something on a PowerPoint slide, and they're standing behind me going, that word should be a different word, and this word, like, I'm not ready to show it to you yet. don't
Yeah.
That level of micromanaging is very, very frustrating.
Yeah. So again, even if you're listening to us and you're not in a management position yet, remember these things as you get promoted and work through your organization. These are and again, this is only a small, the N is 1,000. It's not that great. It's not that huge study. I'm surprised. I mean, this would be the same if it was 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. This is what we're talking about. Let's get to our final three, buddy. According to, again, this is a study done by BambooHR. You can look them up at BambooHR.com. This is their Bad Boss 2020. These are all the things a study of 1,000 people said make up bad bosses. Number 8, you just mentioned this, buddy. The supervisor boss doesn't back you up when you're disputing with a client. Number 9, they don't give you enough direction on assignments. And number 10, they don't set clear expectations. Any of those jump out at you?
Yeah, you got to. It's all about expectations.
Amen, brother.
We're going to write a book at one point called "It's All About Expectations."
Yep.
So I probably would have ranked that higher.
I mean, if I don't know what's expected of me, how can you hold me accountable? And this happens a lot in many organizations. Terry said it's hard to rank these. They're all horrible, and they are. All right. One more graphic, and let's go ahead and get a little bit controversial here. Why do people ultimately leave, Brian? In their study, they said, while some reasons change over time, close to half of employees still point to the bad boss as the reason they've left. But what are the traits of the bad boss? What about the bad boss really makes you leave? Well, it's your management style. That could be micromanagement. That could be, or maybe you're too laissez-faire at all. You're condescending. You've got a temper. The fact that people are still screaming and yelling and having temper in the workplace in 2020 shocks me. You don't communicate well, or you harass the employees. So good old solid list there. So again, just a neat top 10 list of things you don't want to do as you are working your way to be a fantastic leader. If only we had something fun to do, buddy, something to kind of get us excited or get us. Oh, what's this?
I don't know. It's gears that are in orange and blue.
Oh, it looks like it's everybody's favorite leadership statistics game show. Over and under. Let's go. Dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. This is where Brian takes some statistics. He gives them to us. We guess over under. You play along. You go into the comments. You go over or under. You get 3 in a row. We send you a complimentary leadership and laughs tumbler. Comes right to your address. Trying to get 3 in a row. Congratulations. What's that, Brian? Hang on.
Sorry,
we're checking.
Told,
you calling marketing?
The tumblers.
Tumblers are not in yet, but we're playing for fun anyways.
No, we should spend all the money on the little animations.
And on the British voice that came over of the woman. All right, buddy, get us started. Let's go. Over or under. What's our topic? Let's have some fun.
All right. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this, Pete mentioned it already. I'm going to present him with a few interestingly timely specifics of some research and statistics, and he's going to have to decide if the actual number that I present is over or under the number I give him. Clear as mud. Here we go.
Hang on, but before you get started, do you want to mock Joseph, or would you like me to?
Joseph says there are no logo T-shirts, no logo golf towels, no logo Teslas, no logo desk bells, no tumblers. How about logo Snickers or Kit Kat bars? I would love to have some logo Kit Kat bars, Joseph.
I would love to have a Kit Kat bar, regardless. All right, let's get going.
All right. So according to the U.S. Census Bureau, nearly 1/3 of the U.S. workforce and half of all informational workers or information workers are able to work from home. And though the number of people who are working remotely has been on the rise for a few years now, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic certainly, pressed the fast forward button on that trend. And I realized that it seems like we've covered this already, on different leadership and laughs
Right.
shows. But, new data on this keeps coming out. So with millions of people taking part in this widespread work from home experiment that we're all kind of part of, groups like the World Economic Forum, the U.S. National Bureau of Economic Research, and Buffer.com,
Okay.
not a sponsor, they felt like it's worth asking the question, how do people and companies actually feel about working from home in 2020? So, you ready?
How do you feel about working from home in 2020? I am
That's
ready.
the overall idea, but that's not the first question. The first question, so in their 2020 State of Remote Work survey, Buffer.com asked over 3,500 remote workers this question.
Okay.
Would you like to work remotely at least some of the time for the rest of your career? What percentage do you think said, yes, I would like to work remotely at least some of the time for the rest of my career? I'm going to put the over-under at 75%.
Wow. See, I thought you'd put it at like 85 or 90 because I thought it'd be like 93. I think there's very few people. I always feel like I'm on Card Sharks when I do this. Like I have to explain why I'm going higher or lower. I want to go higher, Chuck. I really think that people who have gotten a taste of remote work like it. They may not want it, full time, but like you said, they want to do it at least a little bit of time. So I'm going to go with my buddy Scott Payne, and I'm going to take the overs. Anybody else going to play along? Go ahead and give the stat again, Brian, and the percentage so people can play along in case they're just jumping in.
What percentage of remote workers said, I would like to work remotely at least some of the time for the rest of my career? In other words, I don't want to go back to pre-COVID where I went to the office every day and I never got to work from home.
Yeah. Over or under 75%? I said over. Terry said over. Sherry said over. Joseph said over. Did you stump all of us, buddy? Lay it on me.
I did. I set the bar way too low. It's over. It's actually way over. In fact, Pete, it's over your initial guess of 93%. 98% of respondents, it was almost unanimous in this survey, said they want to continue to work remotely at least some of the time for the rest of their careers.
All right. Let's talk about that 2%. What is it about working from home that makes them say, I have got to not be here ever again? Is it they don't have a home office? Is it that they've got too many kids? Is it that they're lonely? I mean, what is it that makes it? Because I'm kind of the same way. I wouldn't mind being blended, buddy, the rest of my life. You are at home pretty much all the time. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, I forgot to tell the listeners that I don't show you these questions ahead of time because exactly what you said is our next question. So we'll talk a little bit about, what people listed as their biggest struggle with working remotely.
Number one, it makes for a good show because we don't know what's going on. But on the other hand, it makes us look stupid because I'm saying the exact same thing that you were about to ask. So I guess tomato. Let's roll.
Well, going back to that first question, 98% saying that they want to continue working remotely. 97%, almost the same amount, answered that they would recommend remote work to others. So what we're learning from this is people generally like working from home. However, there are struggles, as we've all seen. There are different things that might impede our productivity when we're working from home.
Okay.
So what percentage of people said distractions at home was their biggest struggle with working remotely? Distractions in the home. This could be anything from pets to children to wanting to watch TV. What percentage said distractions at home was their biggest struggle with working remotely? Is it over or under 33%?
All right. Here's the deal. I'm trying to think in my head, what other things are bad about working at home besides distractions? And I can't think. I can't. Go ahead.
I'll give you some of the other ones.
Yeah, help me out.
lack of collaboration and communication,
Okay.
loneliness, not being able to unplug from work,
Okay.
being in a different time zone from your teammates. That's something that
Okay.
I deal with a lot. Staying motivated, taking vacation time, finding
That
reliable
helps.
Wi-Fi.
That helps.
So that
Okay.
would be-
So all those things are reasons why, but you're saying the number one reason is there's too many distractions. Is
No.
it over or under 33?
I'm not saying the number one reason is distractions at home. I'm
You're
saying,
not?
in my mind, that was always the, when I wanted to work remotely back, 10 years ago, the reason I was usually given a no had to do with you'll be too distracted.
Right. There's too much other stuff going on.
There's other
Right.
stuff going on. You won't get
The
any-
only one who's going under right now, my buddy, is Sherry. Everybody else is going over. Wade's saying way over. I think it's higher than 33% too. So I'm going to take the over as well. See if I can go 2 for 2. What do you got?
I'm going to give the bell to your smoking hot wife, Sherry. It's under. Only 12%. Only 12% said they were having major trouble battling distractions in their home. Collaboration, lack of collaboration and communication, and loneliness were tied for the number one reason that people struggle. So, people who aren't used to working from home, they're used to just walking down and borrowing a sliver of gum from somebody else, or
Yeah, right.
one of those Totino's pizzas in the kitchen with their buddy Pete.
Yes. The good old days.
Yeah. Those were the number one reasons. Then comes not being able to unplug from work, which I get,
Okay.
and then distractions in the home. But I pulled that out because it was interesting to me, because that was always the reason I was given for why you can't telecommute, you can't work from home because you'll be
distracted.
And really, only 12% of people say
That's it.
that's something that they have trouble with.
Real quick story about loneliness. My wife and I are both doing part-time in the office. I'm fully remote right now. I'm going back hopefully in a few weeks. My wife is part-time, half and half. But even yesterday, I had to go to the office for a different reason. So I was gone all day. She was here all day. So it was her first day really being home by herself. And she went, it was kind of weird. She said, I like it better when you're here, even though we're on different floors and all that. She said, it was just me and the dog all day. She said, if I had to do this all the time, she actually said, I would be lonely. And now I know because of your statistics, buddy. How about that? And speaking of my smoking hot wife, she says, I think people want to work at home so badly that they wouldn't answer that they were distracted at home because perhaps they couldn't convince management that they can work just effectively. So maybe your answers are skewed because people don't want to say they're distracted because that might lead them to not. I like the conspiracy theory. Also, Apollo, no one ever landed on the moon, according to my wife.
We didn't go to the moon.
Yeah, no, the moon. It's a conspiracy theory. All right, big finish. Let's go.
All right. So the research also found that remote workers are happiest when they spend what percentage of their time working remotely. So you just mentioned how you're going to the office some of the time, you're working remote some of the time, and I think that's what a lot of people are doing. I'm full remote. If I was to go into the office, it would either be in Iowa or Florida, and so I don't have that situation. But I think most people do. They work some percentage at home, some percentage in the office.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Remote workers are happiest when they spend what percentage of their time working remotely, over or under 75% of their time.
Those of you listening on the podcast, that was not dead air. That was actually me heavily sighing. I think it's less.
When they spend over or under 75% of their time working remotely.
It's got to be under. Here's why. It needs to be a 50-50 split, or I'm even going to go with a 3-2. And a 3-2 is only going to be 60%. So it's got to be under your 75%. My buddy Missy, who you're a fan of, hello, Missy, says says 70%. Scott Payne says it's going to be higher. He says it's going to be over your 75%. Madison says under. Sherry said it's a trick question. It's exactly 75%, and you're going to come out with that. Joseph is brilliant like myself and says under as well. And my wife also says you can see the TV lights hanging down. So I don't know what that means. So let's go. Let's go ahead. I don't know.
Beautiful vista behind me. Usually I have a screen up there to hide my dungeon.
Is that what she's talking about? She's looking at you right here and saying,
my printer over here. We've got a couple of ladders because I'm hanging.
Yeah.
I'm hanging my daughter's punching bag up in the ceiling.
No wonder you want to work from home. You've got a gorgeous office.
Yeah. No natural light in here.
I'm sorry. Hang on real quick. She's come back. The moon landing that didn't happen was because the TV lights. Sorry. I'm so stupid. All right. Can we get back to the game, please? I can have this discussion with her later. Okay.
I found two things interesting in our answer. Number one, Missy is so confident that not only did she say it was under, but she put her flag and said 70%,
not 75, 70. Right.
And then Sherry said it's a trick question. It's right at 75%. And I will say this, Sherry, I did not send these answers to Sherry, but she's very, very close. Sherry, the answer is over. It's 76%. She was closest to the pin.
Closest to the pin.
Over or under 75% is
wow.
Over by 1. I went real close with this one. The research found a strong correlation between people who are happy with the amount of time they work remotely with people who work remotely more than 76 or 75% of the time. So
basically that works out to 4 days at work and 1 at home. I mean, ballpark, right? If you're talking 20, 40, 60, right? 4 days of work, 1 at home.
75%. Yeah. So yeah, I go into the office once a week.
Okay.
Is where people reported the most happiness.
I love learning from you, man. You set me up. You do really good. Oh, by the way, I had a banner for this for Leadership Starts at the Top. So let me put that up there.
Oh, there it is.
Courtesy BambooHR. And then also I forgot to put this up there. Don't forget to play along. The links in the comments.
It's not for everybody who needs to do that.
Oh my word. All right. Well, let's see what could possibly.
This is my favorite intro that we have.
Buddy, look, that's me and you like just last year. We look identical to what we look like now.
Yeah. Look at me looking at you.
Yeah. This is called the Daily Disney, folks. It's where we take just a few minutes and talk about something to do with the Disney Company, the Disney organization, Walt Disney, the man, Disney Quest, Disney Files, perhaps Tokyo Disneyland. What else, Brian, can we talk about?
Yeah. I think
Disney, you didn't. Yeah.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. Well done.
I was watching your fantastic graphics.
Perhaps the Disney difference. We could be talking about the Mickey Mouse Club. We could be talking about Tony Basil. We could be talking about a lot of things.
Disney Cruise Line. Thank you, Mrs.
Disney Cruise Line. Well done. Yeah, it's not hard, of course. I wonder who works at Disney. Excuse me, you haven't mentioned my company. They're just as important as all the theme parks. Thank you, Missy. I'm shocked that you talk like that. So here's what we're going to do. A lot of times on the radio, they'll take callers like caller 1, caller 2, caller 3. We're not doing that tonight, Brian. We're going to take commenters.
Let's take
the book, Brian, is Walt Disney Famous Quotes. We're gonna wing this bad boy tonight, and I'm gonna take the third commenter with a page number of 1 through 95. You just type in a number 1 through 95. We're taking the third caller, and we're gonna find a quote on there, and that's what we're gonna talk about for tonight's Disney Difference. Now, if nobody plays, this is the most boring segment ever. So will somebody please
give you a number?
Please type in your comments in Facebook or LinkedIn a number. Scott, thanks for calling. You are caller 1. Oh, so close. So close. Appreciate you
Wade.
so much. Oh, Wade, you're caller 2. You just missed it.
Next one in wins.
Oh, so close. Doggone it all.
It's caller number 3. And
this is like bad radio. This is like really bad. Oh, look. No. Why would I not pick caller 17? What's wrong with caller 3? Seriously, we're on such a delay, such a lag that, hey, my smoking hot wife comes in. Number 3. We didn't plan that. 55. Here we go, Brian. Let's open up page 55. I'm going to go to the Walt Disney quote book. We're going to talk about this quote today from Walt Disney. Brian, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
I think, quote from Walt Disney, the topic is failure.
Okay.
Quote, I think it's important to have a good, hard failure when you're young. I learned a lot out of that because it makes you kind of aware of what can happen to you. Because of it, I've never had any fear in my whole life when we've been near collapse and all of that. I've never been afraid. I've never had the feeling that I couldn't walk out and get a job doing something else. All right. That's solid. Solid Walt Disney quote there, buddy.
You know, when we were at Disney, there was an executive by the name of Lee Cockrell.
Correct. Fact. Give yourself a bell.
Disney circles. And
by the way, Lee, we will tag you in this episode. If you comment, we will send you a Leadership and Laugh sleeve of golf balls. Go ahead, Brian.
Leadership. Wait, no, we don't have those. But we do appreciate all the leadership that you provided over the years, Lee Cockrell. And he used to say, you know, get fired once in your life when you're younger. And I think that correlates to what you're talking about here with Walt's quote on having a failure. You know, yeah, I don't know if that was his actual advice or just kind of an off the cuff, but I remember it stuck with me. You know, everybody should be fired once in their life to know, you know, to learn from that and know what that was like.
Well, when you think about it, I'm thinking about his very last sentence, which is, I've never had the feeling I couldn't walk out and get a job doing something else. A lot of us so many times live in fear of, what if I mess up and lose this job? What if I speak up in this meeting and get fired? What if I try something creative and something bad happens? And then you live your whole life in fear. His point is, there are hundreds of millions of thousands of jobs out there. Now, again, pandemic, not related. I mean, the economy is a little bit different right now, so I don't think we recommend to anybody to go out and rock the boat.
No.
Now, but you know, as things get back to normal, I totally agree. If you live in fear your entire life of now, I'm not talking about the fear of let's all go climb Mount Kilimanjaro and let's all bungee jump off a 10,000-foot thing with a string that probably won't hold. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about calculated risk. And I think that's what he's talking about here. And you know, Walt had so many failures, Brian. I'll put you on the spot here from traditions class. Give me some of his failures or things that sort of happened that didn't work out for him.
Well, the number one thing that comes to mind is when Walt signed away and lost the rights to his top character, whose name was Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
Yep.
It was went all the way to New York on a train to talk to the people who said, listen, I own the license to that. You don't own it anymore. So either, you know, you work for me and do this or you don't. And Walt said no. And he got back on the train to California. And that's where the idea from Mickey Mouse was born. Hey, there he is. There's Oswald.
I'll tell you, I try to work quick with you, buddy, because I never know quite where you're going. But yeah, I mean, I love that story. This was his character. This is what he had his bread and butter. All his money was put into it. Signed a thing, made a mistake, all that. Universal gets the right to Oswald. But the good news of that is Mickey Mouse, again, was sort of born out of that. I remember, buddy, the stories that we used to hear about him, about his first studio, like his first Laugh-O-Grams and his first movies and all these things that were losing money hand over fist. And he made mistakes, but he just kept going, you know, and I think that's kind of the key. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Opening day of Disneyland.
Opening day of Disneyland was quite a failure in terms of, now again, it ended up being successful down the road. But yeah, I think our lesson here, buddy, is to try to encourage people that, you know, it's important to have a failure. If you haven't had one, and I think about our kids, buddy. Our kids are failing sometimes, and we as helicopter parents or as parents, what is Gen Z or whatever, we want to protect. I think it's important for our kids to kind of fail sometimes. That's how you learn. That's how you become more resilient. I can see you clearly disagree, as does my wife, who will never agree with that.
Anything.
I mean, we just want our kids to be great, don't we?
We do. And, I've used that quote actually with, my kids that, what's that?
I hope it's the closing music. Can you hear the closing music?
I cannot hear the closing music.
Okay, hold on. How about now?
No.
You can't hear the closing music?
No closing music, but that's okay.
Oh, it stinks.
It's good to have a failure once in a while, Pete, so that you can learn from it. And you're no music. There it is. Now it's back up.
How about that?
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining our show.
You were in the middle of one of your most poignant stories about failure and leadership, and I've got control of the board, and everything goes to heck in a handbasket. Dude, you had the most important thing. And by the way, thank you, Wade, for your positivity. So that I did it on purpose to have a good hard failure, man. That was key. See, Barry appreciates it. This is our snazzy, outgoing music. Closing thoughts, Bri. Good show tonight. I appreciate you, buddy.
That's right. That's 24 in the book, and we'll keep bringing you leadership and laughs every Wednesday at the same time through LinkedIn, Facebook, maybe YouTube in the future.
You know what next week is, buddy? Episode 25. 25 weeks in a row of a live stream podcast live stream. How are we going to celebrate?
We can celebrate with a Did You Know right now.
Oh, lay it on me.
All right. So earlier we talked about the National Toy Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Did you know that what? What's happening? Did you know, Pete, that in a deck of playing cards, which a deck of playing cards was inducted to the National Toy Hall of Fame in 2010, there's actually a historical reason for why an ace can be both the lowest and the highest card. Did you know that?
I did not. Tell me why.
Well, during the French Revolution, players started using the lowest card, which was the 1 or the ace, as the highest card, putting it even above the king to symbolize the rise of the lower classes. History.
That was fantastic.
We'll use that in a super spreader party this week.
We will use that this weekend. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic week. And as my buddy Brian says, what's your closing thought to all of us? You stay every week.
Love you guys. Everybody go out and put some more kindness in the world.
That's it. You always say be kind to everybody.
Be kind and let's treat each other right. Love you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, love you guys too. Love you, buddy. See you next week.